Sure.
Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to Ethex Cuppa Club. This is our 13th one of these events, but it's my first as host. So my name's Josh Brewer. I work as the Senior Business Development Manager at Ethex. So I work very closely with a lot of the organisations that raise money on the platform. I'm very pleased today to be joined by Helen Woodcock and Chris Walsh, who are co-founders of Kindling Trust and Kindling Farm, and have about 20 years experience developing social enterprises in the Northwest. And they are currently running a community share offer on the Ethex platform to buy and run a community-owned sustainable farm in the Greater Manchester area. And to just start off with just a couple of bits of housekeeping. So aim of this session is to learn a bit more about the business, what they do, why what they do is important, what their vision is, what their impact is. It's important to state that it's not a financial promotion. We're not able to answer any questions about individual circumstances. But what you can do is you can post questions in the chat function, and we'll try and work them into the conversation. I'll either get them in the course of the conversation or have them at the end. And we will be recording the webinar, and we'll upload it onto our YouTube channel and onto the website. You can watch it again and share it. And we will send through a follow-up email afterwards with some links for any resources that might be useful on the session. Yeah, so about 45 minutes in total, we're having a chat. So let's get started. Hi, Chris. Hi, Helen.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. So you guys, you've been, as I said, you've got a lot of experience sort of working sustainable food space and developing social enterprises. It must be useful to give maybe a bit of background on that and how Kindling Farm and this share raise fits into that.
Shall I go?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so Helen and I have been working together for the last 25 years now. We started working together when we were students here in Manchester. And we've just been focused for the last 10 years on the Kindling Trust. But before that, we helped set up a range of social enterprises, including this mill here. We're really fortunate to have a mill in East Manchester. And all the projects we've been involved with, the kind of vision for us is to kind of have an enterprising approach, but to really get a balance between kind of showing what's possible and also kind of making them financially viable. So about 10-15 years ago, we started talking about wanting to establish a farm, partly to kind of partner with this centre here. We have an environment centre in Manchester, and we like this idea of this urban-rural kind of partnership. And we very quickly realised that, you know, establishing a farm just would not work. You know, we didn't have the experience, we didn't have the markets, we didn't have the knowledge. So we established Kindling Trust, and for 10-12 years now, if you go on our website, there's a whole range of different projects on there, but they're all there really to kind of get us to a point where when we establish a farm, it kind of works from day one. So projects on there are all based around the challenges we've encountered whilst trying to take good food from local organic farmers and get it to customers and make food more accessible. So all the projects that we've been establishing over the last 5 years or so have kind of been building our volunteer base, building our staff, building our markets, building relationships with existing farmers, managing small parts of land, so that when we establish the farm, it would kind of work from day one. Yeah, so we've helped set up box schemes, veg box people. We've been supplying University of Manchester veg people. We run a social prescribing program. And yeah, we feel like for the last 5 years or so, we felt that all these projects were there to enable the farm to happen. But it's been really interesting in the last year or two. Helen was saying this the other day that actually it's kind of almost flipped over now. So a lot of the projects really need kind of the farm to kind of grow. So our veg box scheme, we're on 450 customers. Well, actually at the moment, particularly this time of year, the issue is supply. So the box scheme can't grow or strengthen without a farm. You know, our volunteering program is bursting at the seams. We want to take on more volunteers. and for that we need more land. The same with our farm start program. We've got people coming for a farm start program, and we don't have land to offer them. So it's been really interesting over the last year where we've seen that kind of flip for us.
Yeah.
I've rented on.
No, that's good.
Is there anything you wanted to add?
No, I think you've covered it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're exactly at the right moment in order to be raising money to buy the farm. So you want to just talk a little bit more about the offer itself, and maybe the farm too?
Yeah, so sorry, I just plunged in.
Yep.
So the offer's going really well, which is great. I think a really important part of setting up the farm is that we wanted it to be owned by its community of people, whether they're kind of local community or kind of wider community. Because I suppose for us the farm, well, it has been kind of a long-term aim. It's also just the start in a way. It's the start of kind of changing the food system, and demonstrating that we can have a different food system, much more sustainable and fairer food system, but also viable and economically viable, and that farmers can make a living out of producing food. So I think part of that has to be about people coming on that, being part of that journey. And kind of buying into that, literally, I suppose. So the farm itself, the idea is that it's as Chris says, we've kind of been developing, our various initiatives on smaller areas of land, and we've got to a point where we want to expand, and the farm would be we're looking at 120 acres, agroforestry. Very much focused on fruit and veg, which is the market that we've been growing, but also looking at experimenting with cereals and pulses. And we've worked with, while our main markets has definitely been in the sort of fruit and veg area, we've also got people interested in experimenting with us on buying the cereals and pulses up here, which is really great. And then also it's very much about engagement as well. So as Chris says, it's training people. So the training that the Kindling Trust do is kind of limited in that it can't do the sort of field scale training or the agroforestry because it's on a much smaller area, and there's a real need to develop that way of farming and that kind of very ecological method of farming. We all know that's needed, I think. So this is a way of doing that, and also showing other farmers, supporting other farmers and learning from other farmers. We're very much into learning, as we do what we're doing as well. So I guess that's very much what this stage of the farm is. It's kind of focused on developing that bit of it and engaging people in that with us. And in terms of the share offer, I don't know if have you got specific questions? Do you want me to do?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's useful. So you're issuing community shares, and so what that enables people to become part owners of the farm, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, if it just one of the questions actually came from Liz McKelvey asking, is the secondary market at Ethex relevant in this case? And actually it's not, because the key thing about a community share or withdrawable share is it can only be sold back to Kindling Farm. So there's no possibility of transacting that share to a third party. But one of the follow-up questions that Liz had actually is the intention to hold that investment until there's a withdrawal request, or would capital returns sort of be scheduled in if the performance of the farm is good?
So I think just to go back to what you were saying, yeah, very much it's about people becoming members. The community share aspect of it is about people becoming members and being a part of it, of the farm. And that does lead into this next question, which is that so in our financial model, it's very much about people being able to withdraw their shares. So we schedule in 10% of share withdrawals from after the third year. And we know that some of our, so while we know that there's we've kind of done a lot of talking to other community share initiatives and farms and land related initiatives, and they say that quite a lot of their shareholders want to leave their money in and want to leave their investment in. I think for us it was about saying, well, this is about buying the farm, so we do want to schedule people being able to withdraw their shares. However, that we're not close to the idea of people, you know, then being able to reinvest to do other things, but that's very much a member decision. So that's kind of future discussion for everyone who's a member at that point.
That's right. And once you reach that withdrawable, at that point in time at which people can put in a request to withdraw, you can have a partial withdrawal request. It's not the case it's 0 or 100%. You can.
No.
Okay. I think one thing that's important for us is that people can withdraw their money and then go off and invest in another farm, because, you know, like we might talk later about replicability of Kindling Farm, but one of the reasons, as Helen said, about going down this route is to involve people, but then also to be able to show that this is a way of doing farming or establishing these kind of farms. So that's really important for us.
Because farming is really hard to get into unless you come from a farming background or a land holding family. So this is about saying we need to look at land in a different way and make it much more accessible. So yeah.
And just in answer to the question, Priscilla has come in with a question asking, might the value of the shares go up, say in 20 years? As it's a community share, they don't increase in value, but there is this commitment to pay an interest payment each year. So,
and I think I don't know if it's okay to just add to that, which is that I suppose that's quite a big thing for us as well, is trying to just sort of stop the price of land going up and up and up, I suppose, and to kind of say we need to hold it in perpetuity for sustainable farming, really. So that's a big impact.
And just in terms of that interest, when does that start to accrue for first payment in 2025, I think?
Yes. So the accrual will start on the 1st of April 2024. But because we then need to, as the AGM, approve the accounts for that year, once the accounts are done, it then would get agreed in 2025 and then be payable in 2025, as you say.
Great. And we've had a couple of questions coming in about the farm itself. So one, where is it? And, you know, is there a particular piece of land on offer? Is it an existing farm with buildings?
Yeah. So for the last couple of years, we kind of dipped in and out at looking at farms, and we've engaged a couple of land agents to look for farms for us. And we've really struggled to work out how we can purchase a farm that's on the open market. And, you know, we don't have ready cash. And, you know, these farms come up quite rarely, particularly in the Northwest. It's one of the Savills were telling us it's one of the regions that has the fewest farm turnovers going. So we've kind of looked at different ways of doing this in the past. And what we were really fortunate with was we were approached December 2019, maybe a bit earlier, from a farm owner who was really liked what we did and was really keen to talk to us. And we've been talking for the last year or so with him, and what we have agreed with him is that we are not able to say where the farm is at this stage. So in the share offer document, we're able to tell you about the farm, we're able to tell you how big it is, and, you know, it's 15-20 minute train journey from Manchester city centre, and you know, we know what kind of crops we can grow there. And unfortunately, we're not in a position at the moment to say where the farm is. That might change. You know, we might be able to conclude our, you know, discussions sooner than we envisaged and be able to make that announcement during the share offer. But equally, we might not be able to kind of announce that before then. And also, you know, this farm might not work out. You know, we we really like the guy, he really likes us, we really like the farm, he really wants to sell us the farm. We are confident that we can make it work, but things come up. He might decide that he can't sell it to us, or we might go in and do an asbestos survey and discover something. So we are looking at other options. We've looked at another farm. We've got a land agent looking at other places, but we're really keen to secure this farm, partly because of the land and partly its location, which is kind of between here and Liverpool, about 15-20 minutes from the city centre. So it fits in really well with our kind of business plans.
And I think if anything, this last year has just taught us you just never know what's going to happen, and so that's really it for us. It's just we always try and we're aware that there are risks, and you'd have to be when you're setting up this sort of business, and all the businesses we've run over the last sort of decade or 20 years or whatever is just like always have a plan B and C and D. So yeah.
But having said that, the offer's going really well. I mean, you're at 80% already. It's just outstanding performance. So I guess, bearing in mind that things can go wrong, but if it were to proceed smoothly, what would the sort of timeline then look like from the point at which you get the money in place from investors on Ethex?
There you go.
I was just going to say, I suppose, so we've kind of got this, what we've planned as our ideal. So we've imagined, okay, where the share offer would end on the 3rd of July. We've then got, there's going to be a bit of toing and froing and other surveys done and more due diligence, and but our ideal thing would be that we would be buying it by the end of this year, so sort of autumn, and we're already, because of another project that we're involved in, we're already grafting and getting ready 6,000 trees to plant as our agroforestry system. So that's been really exciting for us, because it's a real sort of concrete thing to have ready to go as soon as we kind of get the land, so we can sort of get planting straight away, really. So that's kind of the aim. However, again, we're aware that timescales.
I don't what I've learned over the last couple of years is, like, if you're, because of the seasonality of anything, like if you're a month behind on anything within farming, it can throw your year out completely. Like, it's like we're doing this apple grafting at the moment. Like, if we haven't got these trees done in the next month, then we can't do anything with those trees for the following year. So we do a lot of planning and contingency planning and stuff. But yeah, that would be our ideal.
And getting on there and doing infrastructure work, getting, looking at the drainage, looking at the buildings. But again, we've also been working with builders up until now who have said, but you can just get on there and get on with it. So don't worry too much about that, so it's good. Okay. We're sort of trying to be a bit conservative with our timescale, but at the same time, get going with it.
It's that balance to strike, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we've had a question from Richard Vernon, who, I should warn you, is a retired agronomist. So what assessment has been made of the soils, water availability, rainfall, irrigation possibility, yields of existing crops, those sort of questions?
Can we get you up? No, I'm kidding. No, it would be great to get you up. So what we've done, as soon as we got off, kind of were approached about this farm, we asked a couple of people. So we looked at it with a couple of commercial growers that we've worked with in the past, but we also felt like we wanted other opinions, and so we asked a couple of people that we'd met. So Elizabeth Stockdale, she works for NIAB, and she's got an amazingly huge brain and knows kind of a lot about soil. So she came and looked at the soil with us and did a walk around for a day, which was absolutely brilliant. And when we get the farmer, it'd be great to invite you all up to come for a walk with her, because she's just incredible. And also Stella, who's kind of an author on fruit trees, and kind of came and looked at it as well from a agroforestry point of view, and kind of walked around looking at not only the soil but the drainage and so on. However, that's definitely, we also then had a valuation done by our sort of rural surveyors, and in that they kind of highlighted various other sort of surveys and due diligence that they would want us to get done, that we would want to get done. So that's kind of the next stage. So we've done enough where those experts have turned around to us and said, this is definitely a goer, it is worth pursuing, and it is doable, but there's definitely more to do, I suppose, would be and was it Richard? You'd be very welcome to come up and look around it with us.
So actually on that point about, people visiting the farm, this question is, would all the shareholders be welcome to visit the farm? Would that be a particular any time, or would there be sort of special invitation on certain dates, open days, that kind of thing?
Yeah, because foremost we want it to be a working farm. We want to keep everyone safe, and we want them to have a good time there. So I think what we'll do is we'll like some of our smaller sites, we'll zone it both physically and time wise. So I think what we'll do is we'll have periods like Wednesday afternoon the whole farm is open, or like this area is off limits and stuff like that. But yeah, we definitely want people to not just visit but to volunteer, to buy the produce, advise us, all those sorts of things. We're really after an active membership. That doesn't mean if you live far away not to invest, but we're really keen to have people kind of on the farm. And we want to go back to a kind of living farm where there are a lot of people on the farm at any one time. Just doing that safely really is important to us.
And just being able to, it is interesting. We've spoken to quite a few again, other farms that have done this, and particularly Charlotte Hollins from Ford Hall Farm, who was sort of one of the original community share owned farms, and they've got something like 8,000 community investors. So for them, like that question of can we turn up anytime is I think was one where they were saying, but what they say is definitely look for, work with your members and find ways to engage them, even if it can't be that they turn up all the time. And they do, at least a couple of events a year where everyone's invited to come, but then there's courses like that. We want to do sort of courses and other things. So yeah, there'll be plenty of opportunities to get involved.
And just on a sort of, again, a practical level, kind of question coming in, asking how much is a share? And I guess alongside that is, what is the minimum number of shares that someone can buy in order to become an investor member?
So to become, share is £1, but to become an investor member, you buy £200 in this share offer. And what we say, because we don't want money to be obstacle to people, we do say that if you want to invest, come together as a group, then you can do that, but pick one person who's the kind of named representative.
Yep. Okay. You've referenced agroforestry a couple of times. I think it might be useful just to break that out a little bit, so we can understand a bit more about that approach. And I guess related to that is, someone's asked the question is, will you be operating on organic farming principles, even if you aren't certified as organic?
Yes, so we will be, the second we get onto the site, we'll be applying for Soil Association certification, and I think there's a couple of years when we're in conversion. We do that for a range of reasons, but partly like our box scheme and supplying the restaurants and stuff. One of our unique selling points is we're certified organic with the Soil Association, so that's kind of our market that we're feeding into. We are going to be predominantly focusing on agroforestry as a farming technique. So if there's a lot of examples down south, but there aren't many up in in the northwest. And if you come onto our farm, you will see basically, traditional fields, large fields, but you'll see rows of trees in those fields. So you might normally have, well, less so now, but you would just have a hedge around a field. Now on this farm, you would have hedges around the field, and then you would have rows of trees, and you would have, in our case, fruit trees, and along the rows, there's a tree every 3 meters, 4 yards or so. And each of those rows is about 24 meters apart. And you will then, between those rows, grow cereals, pulses, veg. So the farm really will do lots of similar things to other farms. There'll be tractors, there'll be combine harvesters and stuff. There'll be just lots and lots of rows of fruit trees. And the purpose of that is that we get 2 crops out of the field. We'll get our fruit off the trees, and then we'll also get veg or pulses or cereals out of the rest of the field. And it's used a lot in other countries, less so in the north, as I say. But we're focusing on heritage varieties of apples, pears, damsons, plums. And we've got a DEFRA grant of just under £250,000 to establish the agroforestry system. So these 6,000 trees that we're producing at the moment are going into a tree nursery really close to this farm we'd like to buy on land owned by Unicorn Grocery, in a tree nursery where they'll grow, get pruned, and then when we're ready to purchase a farm, they'll be moved across.
Okay.
Yeah, I suppose just to say on that, just to add to that, like there's a yield and a diversification element to it, but there is also definitely a ecological farming element to it, which is like the benefits of farming through agroforestry are really incredible in terms of holding onto the soil and increasing the habitat for biodiversity. Yeah, that's just a great way. I could ramble on about this for hours, so I won't. But I think have we got some more sessions on agroforestry, or can do if enough people are interested. We've been running a few sessions on to explain a bit more about what we're doing. Yeah. So we can do that.
And yeah, and I guess this follows up to this sort of knowledge capture and learning. I mean, one of the questions that's come in from Tony Koricki is, did you have anything in mind in terms of sort of designing and implementing a social learning system to sort of capture the knowledge and understanding of the systemic impacts of the farm, its investors and other participants? So is there going to be a kind of process of I suppose, impact assessing the overall effect of the farm?
Yeah.
Could I have a go?
Yeah.
So before this call, we were on a Zoom call with Organic Research Centre, and we were talking about our relationship with the University of Manchester. And last week I was on a call with University of Manchester about exactly capturing that kind of social impact. And as is often the way at the moment, people are quite interested in capturing, carbon and talking about that side of things. And we were saying that's only part of our story, really, because actually so many of the benefits that come from our farming techniques happen off farm. So our relationship with our customers, encouraging people to eat more healthily. That's firstly where a lot of the carbon savings are being made, but also a lot of where the social impacts are being had. So we're really keen to capture that and look at clever ways of doing it, because for us, a lot of us, including me, get excited when we see rows of fruit trees in the field, but actually that's only a fraction of the story. We did a piece of research a couple of years back into our social impacts as an organisation, and I think we identified 50, 60 different types of impacts, whether that's job creation or well-being or for a social prescribing program. And we've been piloting 5 or 6 of those, and we've been piloting that in just different ways of capturing it, whether we capture it through a food diary or photos or questionnaires and stuff.
Yeah, because the whole it's really important to be able to share that knowledge, as we say, like sharing that knowledge, any lessons that we learn, and also learning back from the people that then go on and do it better than us is kind of our model, really.
Well, that's right, because there's a training element built into the project itself, isn't there? in the fact that you are going to be trying to bring through, you know, groups of people to learn farming, to learn the techniques that you're operating on the farm, and then to be able to, you know, for them to go on and replicate that, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we're definitely about building a local food economy.
Yeah.
And the Kindling Farm is kind of one part of that. And the only way that, you know, that we're going to build that is with lots of different farms and lots of new entrants into farming and the like.
We've always talked about how our ideal world would look like, would be like, you know, lots of kindling farms all over the place, not necessarily called Kindling Farm, obviously. We don't need to own them, but you know, that it isn't, yeah, that this is the start of it, I suppose. The start of trying to create that change and support other people to create that change.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that comes through quite clearly in the offer document, is this idea of replicability. And, you know, can you scale it? Can you grow it? Can you replicate it? And I guess just thinking about where we are in the UK at the moment, post-Brexit, so post-CAP, you've just had a big announcement from the government saying we've got setting quite challenging targets for carbon reduction. What do you guys need from government in order to you know, like turbocharge the move to more kindling farms?
I think a lot of the answers and a lot of the challenges come from off the farm. So, you know, the markets and subsidy and all those kind of things, really. I think for us, you know, I've heard a lot of talk recently about, you know, government support for this farming technique or that farming technique. I think that's probably brilliant for moving conventional farming kind of to a more sustainable place. But for us, I don't think it kind of helps terribly, because we're going to do it anyway. We'll find a way of doing it. It's actually kind of like how we make our markets more resilient, how we make food more accessible to people. Those kind of things, I think, I would say.
Yeah, I think there's always policy change that can help make it easier. As Chris says, we're going to do it anyway, but we could do it a lot quicker. More of us could do it a lot quicker if we had like helpful planning policy, you know, land protected for farming, rather than, you know, offered out to the biggest bidder. And kind of, yeah, like so that people can actually live on the land. So planning permission given for that, polytunnels and all of that sort of thing. We've learned a lot from the growers that have had a really hard time making a go of it because they can't live on their land or they can't put up polytunnels. And it's just like, if we actually want to change the face of food and farming, then there's a really, you know, there's a possibility of making that really possible for people, and like through agroforestry, through more undercover growing that can extend the season. And then, as Chris says, alongside that comes, you know, more positive public procurement policy, so it makes it easier for them to buy from farms like us, or from, you know, the markets we've set up like Manchester Veg People, and at the same time that then increases access to more people, because, you know, the food is going direct through schools to lots of people, and without putting the price of the school dinner up. So there's all that sort of stuff that we've worked on a lot as Kindling Trust, and hope to do a lot more of on the farm, because there's suddenly this quite exciting place for people to come and visit, and a way of marketing that of the farm really helps people to market their business as well in terms of the buyers. So I think there's lots of opportunities.
Could I say something about
replicability?
Yeah.
Possibly, I don't know.
So a couple of years back, we looked at different options because we were struggling to find a way of how we could establish a farm on the, coming on the open market. And we talked to various large landowners in the region, National Trust, Cheshire East Council and things like that. And we felt that we didn't want to go down the route of renting, partly because of what we wanted to do on the farm, but also that kind of, we're a food justice organisation, and we felt that it didn't create strong foundations for things that we wanted to do. And we did want to create something that was replicable, and the community shares approach is really key to that for us. Like, if we can show that, you know, a small group of people can come together, raise significant investment, you know, purchase and establish a farm, and then make it a success, we feel that we can contribute that way as well.
And hold that farm in perpetuity. I suppose that's the issue, because if you do it on a farm that's owned by someone else, well, that's a model that other people use and has worked for them, that whoever owns the farm can then decide they don't want you there anymore. And that's
and particularly up here, I think you know, I sometimes feel like I go to a lot of the kind of like Oxford Real Farming conferences and things like that, and there's so much stuff going on, you know, in Gloucestershire and further south. You know, you can point to, you know, replication and people doing it again and again and stuff, but up here it's really difficult to point to. You know, these kind of opportunities. Yeah,
that's the key thing, isn't it? Is that community ownership of that asset and into the future as well. And, you know, obviously we see it a lot with community energy here in Ethex, but, you know, the same goes for land and food production systems. So yeah, it's a really important model, I think. And we've got lots of questions flying in, so I'm going to try and pass through a few of those. Will you have any animals on the farm, or is it all non-animal?
So it's going to be a stock-free farm in terms of the production. So we won't have livestock, or won't be farming livestock. It's an interesting one because of the agroforestry system and because of the sort of creation of habitat, there's going to be a lot of life on the farm, but it won't be farmed by us. And there's various different reasons for that. I won't go into them all if you've got lots of questions, but one of them is that that's our experience. And actually one of the things that we're lacking in the UK is fruit and veg. Like, we import a lot of fruit and veg still. So we need to look at a way of how to increase that and how to extend the season. And that's kind of our experience, and finding a way of doing that. The other thing is actually that the lands we're looking at, it would be a real crime to put livestock on there. It's good. It's you know, it's flat, and it's kind of good for fruit and veg and trees.
Yeah. And just a quick question. Someone's come back on, you know, the point you said about not being able to reveal everything on the location of the farm and where you are in terms of the purchase. Is there something that's specifically holding up the purchase? I mean, is there a negotiation still to take place around price, or is it to do with the fact that you still need to raise the funds in order to fund the purchase?
So basically it's been in the going through probate process. So while it was going through that, so it is owned by the person who approached us, but it was owned by them and another family member who, an older family member who then died during that time. So kind of since that time, it was then going through the probate process, and that started right just at the beginning of lockdown, when everything just went to snail's pace. What we've kind of been told is that does seem to be coming to a conclusion, but we were kind of advised not to discuss price really while it was still in that process. But because we just had the valuation done, we had a kind of model to base it on and an amount to base it on. Okay,
thanks. And you know, Heather Hunt has raised the point that there's a lot to manage there, 150 acres. How are you working with the workers on that land? Is there a management plan in place? Have you developed things like pay structures and all of those kind of things that you'll need in order to manage the labour on the farm?
The short answer is, at the start, we'll be working with neighbours and contractors and ideally the present owner. So we won't be in a situation where we'll be handing the keys and then having 120 odd acres to manage. So that would be my immediate thing. In terms of the numbers of labourers and staff and progression, we've done quite a bit of work on that, but I'll let you answer.
Well, I suppose that, so at the start, what we've looked at as well is getting so it's going to be a cooperative model. and so it's like a community benefit society. It's going to be a cooperative model, and it's got kind of the 3 different categories of membership, and part of that is the worker membership. And we've worked with a lot of co-ops and quite large co-ops, kind of Suma and unicorn grocers that have quite a large number. So we feel quite comfortable with that model and with that model of working in sport. However, what we feel we want to do at the start is get a kind of highly qualified, experienced farm manager to come in and sort of help us set that up from the start and learn from that experience, and then gradually grow that team of people. Because again, we've been sort of training up new growers as part of our last sort of 10 years work. So yeah, it will grow. And also, interestingly, what we've seen as we've been advertising jobs, so for the agroforestry project that we did, we're working on, we've actually had a lot of applicants from kind of all over the UK with quite a lot of different experience. So we want, we feel like there'll be a good mix of providing local opportunities for work, but also getting in some experience, because people are pretty excited about it, I think.
Yeah. And so within your model, there's a question here about does the budget include, reinvesting back into the business for farming equipment, tractors, maintenance, etc.? Yeah.
That's sort of, there's a kind of a line in there to start reinvesting from profits made.
Yeah, and I would actually say, anyone who is thinking of investing in Kindling Farm, go and read both the offer document and the accompanying business plan. There's a lot of really detailed information in there, actually, which gives a lot, a lot more meat on the bone to those sort of questions about reinvestment.
It's good bedtime reading, isn't it?
Absolutely. So a question here: will there be a living farmer living in the on-site farmhouse? Are you going to? What about security? Is that a concern? How are you managing that?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a farm where, people live and people live and work. Kind of want to go back a little bit to that kind of traditional approach. So yeah, that's really important to us. Getting meaningful, well-paid livelihoods, and also people being able to kind of live on the land is really important to us.
And to date, how many people have invested? I think I should probably know that. I think 200.
30, maybe 220.
Brilliant. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. And there's a question around, so there's obviously there's the minimum investment value of £200, £1 shares. Is there a maximum holding?
There is a maximum of 10% of the maximum raised. So we went for the community share standard mark, and there's a range of things that we need to do to meet that, and that's, there is a maximum for individual investors, although institutional investors can invest more.
Okay, and I've got quite a specific question here now. So all the farmland adjacent to the Bridgewater Canal and to west of Manchester is very fertile due to vast areas around Chat Moss, which we use for soiled waste from Manchester. Not probing where the farm is, but does it benefit from this fertility?
I think a bit does, but can't say too much. But it is that part of the world. It is it's a really it's a really fascinating part of the world in terms of soil types and soil fertility.
There's a real patchwork of soil on that farm.
Yeah.
We'll get you up. We'll promise. As soon as we know, we'll let you know. We'll get you up there.
What we can say is you can't canoe to the farm from Manchester City.
The other thing actually to say as well is it's for us, it was quite interesting having the patchwork of soils rather than, because right at the beginning when we first kind of started looking at farms, there was one land agent who was like, you must go for grade 1 soil only, and we were saying the trouble is, what we actually want to do is show how to improve the health of a range of different types of soil, because there isn't grade 1 soil all over the country, and we need to be, again, supporting people in different areas to grow in an ecological way. So for us, that's a positive thing. I think if we were only on peatland, I think we would feel very torn about whether we could actually grow on it all, or whether we needed to rewild it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Look, I'm conscious of time. That's been a brilliant session. It's great to hear more about the project. As I say, I think it's fantastic. It's the sort of projects that we need in order to revolutionise, the way we produce food. Thank you to all the people that have logged on and watched as well, and for the flood of questions, which have been great. Thanks for that. But to say thank you to everyone for taking part. Look out for more events coming soon.
Yeah.
We'll send out a follow-up email afterwards to everyone with some more information, maybe something around those agroforestry sessions or Bright sessions that you mentioned. But yeah, if you're interested, as I say again, take a read of the offer documents and then make a decision based on the information in there.
Yeah, and do come along and come to other sessions, because we're really I'm aware that there's a lot of questions. I saw a nuts question in there, which I'm really interested in the idea of whether we can grow nuts up here. So yes, lots more to talk about. And just huge thanks to you for hosting it, and just thanks everyone for coming. It's been really great.
Pleasure. Okay, it's just to say, someone's just said that there is a recording. Okay, great. Thanks,
Great.
Helen. Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you.
Thanks
very
much.
much.
See you soon. Thanks everyone for joining us. Bye.